20 plus years, at some point, you realized you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to episode 145 of the Married into Crazy podcast with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Lovey.
I'm Snooks.
And welcome back. Like we say every single time, I think Snooks is getting tired of me saying this, but I am honored to have each and every one of you listen to us, hanging out with us, sharing the podcast. You could be doing a lot of other things, but you've chosen to actually hang out with us for a moment. And I think this is going to be a really good one for you to participate in as well. So
can I jump in right quick?
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, I want to just give a shout out to Lovey. Today's his birthday. The day that you're hearing it is his birthday.
Go Lovey, it's your birthday. Go Lovey, it's your birthday.
Okay. If I know he was gonna sing, y'all.
You ever heard the phrase "c'est la vie"?
C'est la vie.
Yeah, "c'est la vie." It's a French phrase. What does it mean?
See you later.
No. It goes, "C'est la vie" is like this is life.
Song.
It's like "c'est la vie."
Oh, such is life. Okay.
So from now on, we're gonna have a "c'est la vie."
Anyway, can I finish with the birthday?
C'est la vie, c'est la vie. No?
Oh, happy birthday, c'est la vie.
Exactly. It's "c'est la vie." C'est la vie.
So y'all just give a shout out to my husband. Today's his birthday. Well, the day that you're hearing it, it will be his birthday. So
anybody that thought happy birthday or said happy birthday while you're driving in your car or whatever, thank you. I appreciate that.
And happy birthday, Tupac.
Me and Pac, baby, June 16th. You all better recognize. Look, when I listen to Pac, I'm just a little bit more dark skinned. Just a little bit. Me and Pac, we roll deep.
Stop.
That's my twin.
That's your twin.
That's my twin.
Okay.
In spirit.
Okay.
No, so if you're hearing this when this is released, it's June 16th.
Yes. Love your birthday.
As you are listening to this, we are not home. We are in Jamaica.
Where are we? See, look at that. Lovey gets to go to Jamaica for his vacation.
Oh, don't get it twisted.
I mean, on vacation for his birthday.
We're not on vacation for my birthday.
Okay.
Let's make sure everybody understands.
Saying, every time we go somewhere,
we got two little crumb
June.
snatchers in this house, and they're still snatching crumbs, even though one just graduated from high school, and the other one just graduated from junior college. Moving on, but still graduated from junior college.
And we just happen to be on vacation on your birthday.
And Father's Day for that matter. Why not throw that in there?
Okay. Well, there you have it. So you can never, ever, ever say we don't do anything on Father's Day.
Oh, see, this don't count.
I just get brunch. You get a whole trip, a whole vacation in a whole different country.
Wow.
We had to use a whole passport to get there.
So what is the day before Father's Day?
The day before Father's Day is Saturday.
Saturday the 19th.
Oh, okay. I see where you're getting at.
And so we'll be celebrating. If you can see my shirt, if you're watching on YouTube, hey, it's my shirt says Juneteenth across the chest.
Yes.
And so we'll be celebrating Juneteenth in another country altogether.
Yes. Ooh, we might be. How they say? We might turn up over there.
Oh, we gonna turn up
on the beach.
Oh, they might have to wake me up a couple of days on the beach.
Oh.
I'm just saying. I'm gonna go scuba diving.
He's not with me.
No, and I bring that up because I think it's fun. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Juneteenth, it's an actual thing.
So yeah, let me just I'll make it very brief because we don't want it to actually be a history lesson, which I love history. So Juneteenth marks the date of the last slaves being in bondage. So the Emancipation Proclamation was signed January 1st, 1863 by then President Abraham Lincoln. It took 2.5 years for all the slaves to be notified or to be fully freed, I should say. So it wasn't until June 19th, 1865 in Galveston, Texas, that the last slave was let go. I should say let go, but was freed.
Can I give a shout out?
To
I want to give a shout out to Major General Gordon Granger,
Oh.
because he's the one that actually made the proclamation in Texas, notifying
Mhm.
all the people of Texas that all the slaves were free. You heard me,
Yeah.
free, and that the Civil War was over. But I
So I
mean,
mean that was the that's where the celebration comes from. And Juneteenth is basically June 19th put together. Juneteenth.
okay, I like that. So from that day forward,
Okay.
everything was cool.
Really?
I know it wasn't.
Really? I mean, are you serious? We want this to be a nice, lighthearted
She about
podcast.
to start burning stuff down. It's gonna look like Rosewood up in here.
Oh,
See
really?
that look?
Why you touching you going too deep, man. You digging too deep.
Well, okay. So even though that it was the proclamation, I want to say the proclamation, even though that
Emancipation Proclamation was
the,
signed.
no, but the declaration by Major General Granger and notifying everybody that slaves were free
Hmm.
and that the Civil War was over, it really didn't take root until a year later. So, and not everybody actually got on board. Meaning, like there are a lot of people in Texas that some released their slaves, the great majority didn't.
Well,
And so slaves weren't even, well, hold on,
okay.
slaves, hold
I
on.
said sorry.
No, and then slaves. It wasn't until the beginning of 1866, a whole year later, that the slaves said, "Okay, well, well, I won't even say slaves. The people that were freed, the freed slaves, started to really celebrate, or at least commemorate. I won't say celebrate. At least commemorate the proclamation that they were truly free."
Hmm. But what I was going to bring up too was that there were a lot of slaves that are slave owners that knew about the Emancipation Proclamation, but they did not divulge that information to their slaves. They didn't tell them that they were actually free until after harvest, because
Oh, of course,
who's
after
going who's
harvest,
going to pick the who going to be out there picking?
because they know their children wasn't going to get out there.
They wasn't getting out there either.
But I
So
mean, do the math though. You're talking about it was 1863,
January
January 1st,
1863.
the beginning of January 1863.
Hmm.
It took
Two and a
two,
half
two and a
years.
half years. So
Yep.
1865, when General Granger made the proclamation in Texas, and it started kind of like to reverberate a little bit more. But it wasn't until 1980. So you look at Texas made Juneteenth an official state holiday in 1980.
Well, okay, because it's Juneteenth, a holiday here in California.
I don't know. Well, I know that I don't know,
No, it's not.
but well, it is for my company that I work for. We
Oh,
observe I feel proud that my company actually recognized Juneteenth for the first time last year.
well, good job,
But
company. I don't think
in 19
state of California does.
no. But
Mm,
in 1980,
let's get on board.
45 other states and the District of Columbia actually followed suit and created state holidays around Juneteenth.
Hmm.
Yeah, right. As liberal and progressive as everybody says California is,
Or these other states.
here we are, the turn of yet another century, and
And it's not
Juneteenth
a
isn't
holiday.
recognized. And you guys are probably asking, what? Wait, this is married into crazy. Why are we talking about Juneteenth? There's a reason for that, because what we really wanted to focus on is the idea, right? What did Juneteenth, what kind of impact did Juneteenth have on marriage for free slaves and Black Americans?
Well, okay, so one thing that we can we can clearly say, they had a freedom, a newfound freedom, to be able to marry whomever they chose to marry. Um, During slavery times, the slave owners had to agree to the marriage. They had to
And I just
put.
agree. A lot of times, slave owners picked the
I
marriages.
I, I didn't get to finish.
My bad. I thought it was a conversation. My bad. Go
Go
on. Get on your
ahead. Go.
soapbox. Get on your soapbox. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, they got to pick who, and a lot of times it was based on financials. You know, they got to pick who it was. They said if they could marry or not, and there were times when it was denied. So marriage ceremonies had to be sacred in that regards. I don't know if you remember the show Roots. Do you remember Roots?
It was so long ago when I saw
Okay, so
Roots.
I just there's because we're talking about this is just making me think about
We
a
should watch it again.
a particular scene. So when Kizzy, it was Kizzy. Kizzy was going to be married to someone. I can't even remember who she was married to. The day before she was getting married, the master, her master, came into her slave owner, came to her room, and she was like, "Well, I'm getting married tomorrow," and he was like, "It don't matter. You still my slave."
Yeah.
And he forced her to have sex with him. Because remember, Chicken George was his son, but I mean, those type of demeaning kind of things. So the day before I'm to get married, another man can just come and just be like, "Well, I'm still gonna have sex with you," and not even the day, not just the day before, but that happened during marriage also. So as a man, how would that affect you if another man came to my house or came to our house and basically at his pleasure could rape me and do whatever, but you're my husband and there was absolutely nothing that you can do about it as far as protecting me and keeping me safe? How would that make you feel?
Um, it would make me feel a less of a man, extremely angry, and I'm sorry, but everybody got to die.
Everybody got to die.
Everybody got to die. God is good because He puts people in the right times, the right places. I don't
Well,
know,
for me, yeah,
uh,
because there's no way.
but see, but think about this. This wasn't an isolated incident. This is
Oh no.
chronicled throughout all of slavery. When for those individuals that were allowed to jump the broom or do some of the ceremonies that they had back then, and when they were doing that, that happened all the time. It's like, yeah, you two can be together, but you both mine, and I'll take her anytime I want. And then even after the fact, this happened all throughout, the 1800s, the late 1800s into the early 1900s. Because if you think about it, I mean, I don't know, we might touch upon it a little bit later, but we talked about the loving story. That happened that ruling was the year before you and I were born.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't that long ago.
1967.
And
Yep.
that was interracial marriage, but it was like all these,
It's still parameters
so
regarding marriage.
there were so many cascading challenges, problems that emanated from slavery. But Juneteenth started to turn it. I mean, it's like a battleship, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
instead of a speedboat, and it's a very big boat that takes forever to turn around.
Yeah, you can't just do a.
Yeah, you just can't move at 90-degree angles. You can't sit there and cut it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It takes nautical miles
Mm-hmm.
for a battleship to turn around, and that's exactly what the state of black marriage in the United States has been.
Yeah, because I mean, I asked that question of you. How would you deal with something like that happening, and still be married to me? I wonder myself, how would I be able to handle that? Because I mean, that's rape. We People can say whatever they want to say, however they want to spill it or whatever. Well, he owned no, he
You
raped
know,
her.
Jack.
That was rape, and at any given moment he could rape her. So as a woman, as a survivor, I mean, and those women were survivors of violent crime, But I have to remember, the feel of his hand on me or whatever. How did that affect
Your
their
psychology.
marriage? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You're supposed to just get over it. Is That's just what it
They
is.
don't look at each other the same.
Yeah, I guess that's where I was trying to go. How would we look at each other the same? Because even though we both know that there's nothing that either one of us can do, in my head I feel like I would be like, you didn't protect me, and in your head I feel like you'd be like, but you let him do it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Why didn't you stop it?
Why didn't you stop him?
There was the what was that movie that was on Netflix with Chadwick Boseman? Um,
Ma Rainey.
Ma Rainey.
Mm-hmm.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Something like that. I can't
And
remember the name of it was, but yeah.
spoiler alert: if you haven't seen it, you might want to plug your ears right now. But
Oh, when he talked about
when he was challenged, or they questioned his motives, or what he would do, or if he was strong enough, or why he would do what he did. And he told the story about what happened to his mother. And you can tell just the way he played that role. He deserves an Oscar just for that. But the way he played that role and what came out and the emotion, you also see the psychology behind why he was so messed up and what he did. To see that, to witness that, and it just alters your connection to other human beings,
right?
Not just your spouse, but you can no longer relate to anybody else because you feel less than human, which is exactly what the intention was.
Yep.
And it's sad because what that did was, prior to Juneteenth, you had alluded to it earlier, that there was no freedom. And that when Black marriage was allowed and got to the point where we could have our ceremonies with the Reverend, and even if it was different ceremonies like jumping the broom and a variety of other things, there's like the foretaste, the elements of the foretaste. There's tying the knot. There's so many different things. But in doing that, once that choice came about, and we could choose, even if we were in a share, even if it was sharecropping, what have you, there were steps that allowed a sense of freedom and liberty. And marriage is one of those banner events.
Yep. Actually, I mean, that's dead on. Um,
Well, think about slave weddings before.
well, I mean, I kind of talked about it a little bit. They were officiated by the slave owner or by a black reverend. Funny thing is that they were not legal. They weren't legally they weren't legally
Recognized,
recognized,
right?
as a binding. And one of the things that we say, until death do us part. They until death or distance, because we all know that slaves were separated a lot of times.
Families were broken up.
Families were broken up.
Husband sent one place, wife sent the other, and then the children
and
sent
children
someplace else.
sent somewhere else. So a lot of slaves, after they were freed, they went through the rigorous work of trying to reunify with their families. And some people, some of the slaves were remarried to others. And can you imagine that big old mess? I'm trying to reunify with my husband, but my husband has two other wives because he's been sold so many times, and four children with one wife and two children with another, or whatever.
I think you got co-parenting issues now.
Yeah.
And so so look at this. Okay, so there was a infamous case in 1857, and it was you ever heard of Dred Scott?
Dred Scott. But you know what? We think of Dred Scott, but we don't think of Dred Scott for about what you're about to say. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, make that distinction. What do we think of Dred Scott about?
About the education. So go ahead.
So there's an infamous case that was decided in 1857. I said 1857. That was a decade-long fight for the freedom of Black slaves, specifically the one Dred Scott. Dred Scott unsuccessfully sued for his freedom and that of his wife. Her name, I think, was like Harriet
Robinson, something like that.
And so, and I know they had two kids. I want to say there were two girls. I'm not positive, but I think there were two girls.
Miss Lovey blowing some stuff. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Just teasing.
Like, you always call me pecan tan, but I know my stuff to a certain extent. No, so there was a huge argument as to whether or not Dred Scott and Harriet were actually married. And because of that, they fought back and forth. And the premise was that they couldn't be married because they were not citizens, because slaves were not citizens. So,
even though they're people. Okay.
So it went all the way to the Supreme Court. So
and what happened?
What happened? The Supreme Court ruled against Dred Scott.
Of course it did.
I think it was a 7-2 decision against him. And I need to read this because I want to pull this over. It says, in the opinion written by Chief Justice Roger Taney, the court ruled that Black people are not included, or were not intended to be included, under the word citizens in the Constitution of the United States, and can therefore claim none of the rights and privileges which that instrument, meaning marriage, provides for and secures citizens of the United States. This decision was a huge factor in igniting the Civil War. Again, 1857. marriage in the Black family is huge. People think it's all trivialized. And, you know, people were fighting for this, going to this prior to the Civil War, fighting for it. And so for people today to just have such a nonchalant attitude toward the union between two people,
Mhm.
it's like, oh, you know, I'll get married. You know, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, no big deal. I'll get me another spouse. I'll get another wife.
Yeah.
I'll get another husband. I'll move on.
I I feel like, and I'm sorry, were you done or were you?
I wasn't done, but go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, go
No,
ahead.
I was just gonna
Finish.
say that just
Finish.
it's just the frivolity of just, you know, like these toss away marriages.
Mhm.
People throwing it away, and without really understanding the history. We want to yell at a kid and talk about them and say something to them because they don't vote. Oh, do you know the history of voting? You should vote because people lost their lives because they wanted to, and that's all true. But people lost their lives, and do you know what people had to go through for your parents to have the right to marry? If you're Black, to have the right to be able to be married.
Mhm.
So if you're going to throw that speech out there to these young folks, these millennials, these kids are like, oh, what difference does it make to vote? And then you want to actually, you know, guff up a little bit and be like, oh, you need to vote. Okay. But you're going on your, and don't get me wrong. I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers right now, and maybe some toes need to be stepped on to a certain extent, but I don't mean this with any disrespect whatsoever. But if you're like on your fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth marriage, and not because of it didn't work out, I understand some things don't work out. We make some decisions because we're learning as we go. But if it's more frivolity of like committing the same mistakes, you know, I fell and slipped into another person and slept with them again, or you know, just things, whatever. But when we treat it with such frivolity, you know, you got to realize that we fought for the institution of marriage before we fought for the right to vote,
Mhm.
and so we should have the same type of reverence for the institution of marriage as well. I'm sorry, I was getting my soapbox.
Well, it's funny because I was kind of gonna get on my soapbox, and you
Come on, you know what?
basically,
Let's get
well, no, I
one
mean,
big soapbox.
you
Jump up
kind of
here.
said some of the things that I was gonna say. How we talk about, not just voting, but education, what people had to go through to get a better education, and for the right to vote. And the same thing applies in marriages in our community. W- the things that people went through, they were told they didn't have the freedoms that others had,
Right.
um so when we're in a marriage, just like when we're telling our kids, you need to take this seriously because this happened, this person died, Rosa Parks sat on the bus, and Martin Luther King, and we marched, and however they feel about Malcolm X, he still was a pivotal person in our history. um all these people did all these things so that we may have all these freedoms, and that includes marriages. So when we're in our marriages, we need to take them seriously, and we need to think about, what if I didn't have this right? What if someone could just come in my house and just take my wife, or just take my husband, and then they be gone? We need to start looking at those type of things. People came before us and fought for us to have those rights. So let's utilize what we have, take it seriously, love on our spouse, love on our partner, because they could be gone the next day. And I don't mean just from death. They could just be taken away from you. I mean,
Oh, that
they
happens.
they
That
could
happens
have
today
they
in the
could have
United States.
just been taken away from you. You know, we don't realize how, maybe some of us do realize how blessed we are, how lucky we are to be able to say I do in the church and have it recognized, and it's legal. It wasn't until 1866 that Congress passed a bill. Um, Congress passed an act or whatever for slaves to be able to be legally married. And it's funny that I even said slaves, because at that point they weren't slaves anymore. But the mentality and the mindset still says slaves. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
So African Americans that were living at that time, someone had to pass a thing, a rule. Congress had to say, oh yeah, they can marry based on the color of their skin. So when we're in this thing called marriage, we need to really take it seriously because, like I said 5 times already, someone died so that we can have the right to say I do and love on who we want to love on.
Right. And I know I mentioned, we were talking Black marriage, we're talking about Juneteenth. But you bring up an interesting point where we've touched upon it once before, but it's a part of my family history as well, where we take a look at having the right to love who you want to love.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We talked about loving versus the state of Virginia in the past. Right. And if you guys remember, a few episodes back, I remember what the title was or the number. I should have looked it up before, and I apologize. I'll go back and look, and it's something loving in the title, and I know that's bad. But no, it was, Mildred and Richard Loving
Mm-hmm.
were the ones that were in go watch the movie on
on Netflix.
On Netflix. Amazing movie.
So good.
But they had their request to be married go before the Supreme Court because Mildred and Richard went to Washington, D.C. to get married because Virginia law says that you cannot marry for interracial. They met in high school.
I was going to say, so they met in high school and they fell in love and she got pregnant. They went to DC, had to sneak and go to DC, get married. They came back and someone told on them.
Yeah, somebody snitched, and
they were both.
She went to jail. They were both put in jail. Of course, he was let go immediately, and she sat there in jail. And it was after a certain amount of time they allowed her father to go and actually bail her out, but they wouldn't allow Richard, as a white man, could not go bail her out and to be one of their own or whatever after a certain amount of time. And it was because of what the judge said. There's a lot that goes into it, but this landmark ruling took place in 1967. What year were you born?
1968.
The year before we were born, this took place. And it's a landmark civil rights decision of the United States Supreme Court.
And how long did this go on?
How long? What do you mean?
The case. They got married in what year?
What year did they get
1958.
58?
1958, they got married.
So 9 years.
For 9 years, they fought to be able to love each other in public, basically.
So 1958.
They got married in 1958.
And I alluded to this before. My great grandfather and grandmother. So let's see. My grandmother was born in 1925. 1925. So my grandmother was born in 1925.
25 or 26.
It's over there on that calendar, and I can't tell. I want to say it was 25. And 1925.
Yeah, it was 20.
Grandma was born
1925.
My grandma Lula Mae McLaughlin. Love her to death. And she was half white, half black. Born 1925. Do the math, y'all. 1967, it was legal, but my grandmother, it was raised with, it wasn't like it wasn't a slave owner type thing like that. It was her father. She was raised with her dad. And up until her mother died, and then he remarried. And my great aunts and my great uncle that is still alive, Uncle Roosevelt, their father was white. 1925. I know I keep saying that, and I'm trying to beat this drum. My grandmother was illegal.
42 years.
It's crazy. And so that took place, which also says that some of my great-great-grandparents were just like pissed at the world because they were. This is in South Carolina where this took place.
South Carolina.
Where they were just like, screw it. No, this is what we're going to do. And I say that because this fight continues to this day, but we're fighting against so many different things. We're fighting against the music that's out there. We're fighting against, some societal values that are out there. There's so many different things that take place. Marriage is worth fighting for. being able to love who you want to love is worth fighting for. And you can't take it lightly. And the idea, the premise for this talk originally was, what were the ramifications that emanated from Juneteenth?
Juneteenth. Mm-hmm.
And Juneteenth, so like you said, there's so much that's happened, and it's cascaded in so many different directions. There's an ode to Juneteenth that the Black American, African American experience owes a lot to Juneteenth. It should be celebrating it.
Mm-hmm.
Should be much more wide known. There's so many people that still don't know what Juneteenth is, or never heard of it, or wasn't quite sure what it was, or why it should be celebrated. It's the Independence Day for Black people in the United States. And it's not about separation, saying, "Oh, there's just one independence for for America." Not so much for if you had melanin in your skin.
Right when they was at the Boston Tea Party having fun, we was picking cotton.
No, we was the ones on the side on the docks, like, "Look at these fools. You know who's gonna have to clean this? We're gonna have to be the ones to clean this mess up. Look at this. Now, that's some good tea, and you throwing it over there in the water."
But it's so funny that you said that. I mean, because you said people like, oh no, it's freedom for everyone. Well, it wasn't freedom for everyone because everyone was not recognized
As
as
being
being a
human.
citizen or a human. Exactly. So you can't say we were all part of the freedom because we were not all part of the freedom. Even when we got the freedom, Juneteenth, after Juneteenth, that's a whole nother history lesson that we're not going to go into because we really want to just talk about
Focus on marriage.
marriage. But I mean, if you hear how what we're talking about, and you talk about all these different obstacles and all these different things that have happened, it's no wonder why some people have these hard shells surrounding different things in life. It's not just that, oh, it happened and get over it. Can we say that to the IRS? You brought that up earlier today. Yeah, you owe X amount of dollars. Be like, get over that. That's
You know what?
old. Why are you trying to?
How many years you trying to get taxes on? Man, that was 5 years
That
ago.
was a long time ago.
Y'all just need to get over that. Just let it go. And there's a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, you know what? Slavery was a long time ago, and you've benefited for so much. Look at where you are right now." Okay, remember the psychology I talked about that was portrayed in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I can't remember the full title of that movie.
Ma Rainey's Black. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna look it
But
up.
it's the challenge with that is that the psychology of it goes from generation to generation to generation. You start to unravel the marriage. We talk about, and people were mad and angry and saying that, "Oh, there's no black men. Black men don't stay in the house. Oh, the children are being raised by single mothers." There's a reason why there was an unraveling of the black household. It's because those seeds were planted, and it really did a number on what the concept or the perception of what a home should really be.
It's just called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Oh, is that what it is?
You're
Okay.
right.
I thought there was something else to it.
Mm-mm.
So there's a psychology that goes along with it that goes from generation to generation to generation. And I think that we just bring this up just so that people can really take a moment and think about Juneteenth and what we owe to it, and really stop and wonder, okay, you know what? How much value am I placing on my marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Am I willing to fight for my marriage the way that Dred Scott fought for his wedding,
Right.
for his marriage,
Mm-hmm.
the way that the Lovings fought for their marriage? And I understand that bad things do happen. And maybe part of the process is to sit down and think about pre-marriage. And today's day, we have the luxury of being able to choose who we want to marry. So rather than rushing into things, let's give some thought and get some preparation. There's all kinds of premarital counseling that can take place. You can get premarital counseling nowadays at the drop of a dime with your church. If you belong to a church, you can go see a counselor. There are marriage coaches like Snooks and myself. We're working with a couple of premarital couples right now. We've worked with them in the past as well with their coaching service, marriedandcrazy.com. Go ahead, check it out. Nice plug right there. And but what we do is we help people prepare and get the mindset right. We teach people and help them to understand that in order to have a solid marriage, that there's going to be some craziness to it. And we try and really help them stand on the pillars of crazy the way that we teach it, which are,
Can you tell us what the pillars of crazy are?
yeah, it's basically incorporating being compassionate, real, accountable, zealous, and yielding, and really have discussions before you get married as you're courting each other to understand that there needs to be compassion in your relationship. There needs to be an element of realness, uniqueness, authenticity in what you're doing, not putting on the mask because, oh, okay, this is what I need to do because I know this is what she wants to hear or this is what he wants to hear. Being, accountable to each other, not just like, okay, well, that's my man or that's my woman, and they need to answer me. That's not accountability. Accountability is, I gave my word that I'm going to be, all in on this relationship, and so I'm going to do what it takes. Sometimes it's not going to feel great, but there's going to be growth involved,
Hmm.
and I need to do that. And that zealousness is having that joy, that umph, that zeal, if you will, for the relationship and all that it encompasses, right? And then, of course, being yielding to be able to give and know that my way isn't always the best way. Those are the things that we really stand on, and I think those are the things that honor Juneteenth, that honor Dred Scott, that honor the Lovings, that honor the countless tens of thousands of others, if not more, that were ripped apart
It's more.
during slavery, post slavery, and people that are suffering the effects of the psychology and the mentality that cascaded from those times. So think about that as you approach June 19th. Take a moment on June 19th. Think about, you know what? Let me look up Juneteenth a little bit more. Or what can I do? Is anything going on in my area? Because this is the year that we're starting to get out and about more. California's going to open up more, I believe, after June 15th. So there might be some celebrations for Juneteenth that are out there. So, participate, learn more about it. But more importantly, commit to your marriage, commit to doing the work.
That's right. I mean, I feel like this. You took the time and you took the commitment to establish the relationship, right? You took the time and you planned the wedding, or somebody planned the wedding.
Somebody did.
You went through the steps. You spent all this money, even if you just went down to the courthouse. But you said, um, I think that's the one. I'm going to ask her to marry me. She said, yes, I am going to marry you. So when you said, will you marry me or will you be my wife? And she said, yes. Or maybe she asked, will you marry me? And he said, yes. But once you put that out there, so now it's time to get busy and let's get the real work going. It's not just like we said before, it doesn't just stop at the wedding or the honeymoon. The real work begins inside the marriage. Actually, it begins the day you come home from your honeymoon. This is when the consolidations, everything, everybody moved in, all their stuff or whatever. Or
Actually,
maybe you've been moved, you might have lived together already before. But if you said and you did some real deep thinking, this is the person whom I want to spend the rest of my life with, then let's do that. Make sure that you're doing everything within your power to spend the rest of your life with that individual, with that person. Don't just, it's too hard. I gotta walk away. No, it's not. That's not too hard. What's too hard is being ripped from your family and sold somewhere down south or further up north, or not north, but to a different plantation, to never be able to hug and see each other again. What's hard is being told, no, you cannot marry this person.
mm,
Um, no, your wedding is not legal, is not recognized by the church. And what's
or the
what's
state.
also, or yeah, what's hard is having to do it in secret and undercover at night and have your own little ritual and ceremony, and then pretend during the day that you live separate lives. That's hard. So does it require work? Yes, it does. But it will be the best work that you could ever do, Because when you share your life with the person that you deem this is it for me, that's man, that's the best. That's the best work that there is. And the more you do it, the least painful it will become.
Until she eats your French fries. She says she didn't want none.
Or he eats your cake or your pie in the refrigerator. That's a real fight.
Right? We're gonna have a. We're gonna have, look, you're trying to start something. But we
Anyway,
thank each and every one of you. And so what we want to do now is, of course, the I Can for couples. So every week, what we do is give you the freedom to reach into your own personal I Can and get an affirmation. It's one of 40 affirmations, of course, that you get to pick the little things that matter in day-to-day maintenance of your relationship. What does yours say?
I can give a compliment.
Mine says, I can send flowers just because.
Okay.
And I don't have to because there's a gazillion flowers in the
They're
living
not
room right
mine.
now. It's for the family. It's for you.
Wow. Our daughter's graduation flowers are for me.
I,
Okay,
I thought about you.
I'll let them know that.
They're not as pretty as you,
I
but
think I picked them out. So,
yeah.
yeah, all three vases of them.
Hey,
So,
and if you like the T-shirt that I'm wearing right now, it says Juneteenth, 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 and there's more on the back, but you just can't see it. Oh. If you like it and you want to actually get one for yourself, you can actually check out the show notes. I'm going to have a link in there to the Instagram of Jackie Pennington, Miss Jack Jack. She has a business called Be Branded AF. And we know what AF stands for. So go check out her Instagram at Be Branded AF. That's BE Branded AF. And you can check out some of the other work that she does. She has some great work. But I really liked the T-shirt, and so I asked about it, and she actually gave us one, or gave me one. She didn't give nothing to Snooks.
no, that was his birthday present.
So, hey, take care, and until the next time, be blessed.
Bye bye.